Welcome back to Cossy Podcast. My name is Cossy. Welcome back to a brand new video. We've got to agree we have an injury crisis. Mikel Arteta has just confirmed that even William Saliba has a knock and he is injured. He's not been training ever since the North London derby. Now, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The number of injuries we are picking up and how random they are. Like Fabio Vieira, William Saliba. Well, I expect Saka. I did expect Saka to have an injury. I did expect maybe Gabby Martinelli to have an injury because it takes on so many players. But Fabio Vieira, William Saliba at this point in the season, it's just absolutely crazy. We're going to be diving into Mikel Arteta's press conference. He's given us a hilarious update about the injury situation and you don't want to listen to it. I'm saying, listen, if you have a weak heart, just log off this video at the moment because he said so many players have not trained since the North London derby ended. So we have one more training session and that was today. So we're going to have the final team news whether players like Saka, players like Saliba, Trossard, Rice are going to be involved in the game against Bournemouth because they have not trained. They have not trained for the last 7 days. Hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the podcast as well. What should we do with injuries? I mean, you're not doctors. I'm not one. But I've got to ask you because I have nowhere to ask. I have nowhere to turn. I'm looking for a medical doctor to assess the situation. Probably get one on the channel to answer a few questions. I will get some of my friends, obviously, from the Backfire podcast to digest this injury crisis. Are we not managing players well? Are we not giving our players enough rest? Because that could be a reason. And if it is a reason, then Mikel is to blame. But I don't think he's to blame. I just think we've played only 8 games, right? Only 8 games this campaign. I mean, you could add the few international break games. Saliba played 1, I think. Odegaard played 2, and Martinelli played 1. But that doesn't justify the magnitude, the number of injuries we are suffering, at the moment at the club. So hit the like button. Let's dive into this guy's press conference and see what exactly is he telling us. Is he joking? Is he kind of manipulating our feelings, or is it serious? We don't have players around. Right, Mikel says on the fitness of Declan Rice, Gabby Martinelli, Leandro Trossard, and Bukayo Saka. This is what he says. Declan Rice wasn't available, and he had to leave the London derby. He hasn't trained since yet. We have had another session, and we have another session in an hour or two, so we'll have more news about him today. Gabriel hasn't trained as well and we want him back. We need him back, but at the moment he's not been available and he's not been training. Leandro Trossard, the same situation. Bukayo Saka, the same situation as well. Interesting. Pure interesting stuff here from Mikel Arteta. How are we picking up all these injuries is still a big question. Mikel Arteta, on whether the judgment will be made, on when the judgment will be made on Bukayo Saka, whether he's going to play or not, he says the assessment is okay. He is fit enough and good enough to be able to be selected tomorrow. Okay, it's a question. Is he fit enough and good enough to be selected for tomorrow? Mikel says that's a question mark, and so far he hasn't trained with the team. So there's a question mark whether he's fit enough and good to go and train and play with the team. But at the moment, he's actually not trained with the team. Mikel Arteta on whether some of those are nearer than others. He says they are all in the same pool. William as well had a knock. Fabio Vieira as well wasn't involved in the last game. So we have to assess them today, see how they are and adapt to the situation because that is actually a big game. That is where we are, guys. That is where we are. Saliba had a knock. Fabio Vieira has not played in the last game, and therefore that means that he has to be assessed. So therefore he was taken off the North London derby pitch, courtesy of management strategy. It wasn't because Mikel Arteta was trying to manage the game. It was because Mikel Arteta was trying to manage something uncomfortable he was actually feeling. The magnitude of injuries is going to cost us. The magnitude of injuries is crazy. Absolutely crazy. I've talked about this before. I don't think Arsenal have done anything wrong for us to have all these big injuries. And for me, I'll blame this on Qatar. I'll blame this on FIFA. I'll blame this on the FA and the Champions League. The games are too many. The games are coming in thick and fast. And I think these are 3 or 4 independent and uncoordinated associations that want to make money out of more games, and therefore they escalate the number of minutes and number of games for every competition they actually hold, and that's the way it is. So FIFA is trying to increase the number of games in the FIFA Club World Cup. Those bastards. UEFA Champions League is increasing the number of games in the new format of the UEFA Champions League coming up. We've already seen UEFA bring a new kind of Euro group stages, the UEFA Nations League. So we have a Nations League, and that means that players will have to break off every now and then to play in the UEFA Nations League, then break off every now and then to play qualifiers for Euros, and break off every now and then to play qualifiers for the World Cup, and of course they have to play finals of the Euros and the World Cup. The games are many. There's no question about that. Yes, the players earn their money, and I've had the discussion of do players really earn a lot of money, and therefore should they play a lot of games? And many people are on the yes part of the discussion. Players get a lot of money, but for me, guys, we've got to consider them. We've really got to consider them. 100 minutes in the Premier League now, 38 games in the Premier League, more games in the UEFA Champions League. I won't be surprised if the time-wasting rule in the UEFA Champions League is also added to the bundle, and we're having 100-minute games in the UEFA Champions League as well. It's absolutely crazy. It's purely crazy. And if you're an Arsenal fan like I am, you've got to be scared, and I'm really scared. Because whereas Liverpool had a pool of injuries last campaign, they've actually gotten much better. And Man City are also in a much better state to deal with injuries, and I think they're all right. I don't think we are all right, and I don't think we are okay. But the good news is that all these players are actually in the same pool. That's according to Mikel Arteta. The pool is, the title of the pool is, they have not trained, they have not been assessed yet, but they're not far away from coming back. So we don't have, they're not part of the long-term injury bracket where you have Partey, where you have Timber Jolien. I think those are the 2, long-term injuries that we're suffering at the moment. I mean, that's a positive, isn't it? I want to make it a positive, because if I don't make it a positive, then what will become a positive? What will be the positive, right? So that's it. Mikel says a couple of players out, and they've not trained at the moment with the first team. All right, Mikel Arteta on if Saka wants to keep his consecutive run in the Premier League of games going. It says, well, that would mean that he's feeling good, but he has got enough experience and understanding of when he's ready to help the team and when he's not. But that's what all the managers want to hear, that they want to play, that they are feeling good. That's the most important thing at the moment. I mean, that's a stupid question, because every player literally wants to be part of the team. Every player wants to help the team become much better, and every player wants to help the team in every way they can. So I don't understand why anyone would ask whether the player really wants to continue his run of games. On if the keeper that starts will have a surname beginning with R. David Raya, Aaron Ramsdale. Okay. That's kind of genius, isn't it? Mikel says, "You a genius. I have my answer for the rest. Have my answer for the rest of the season. Thank you so much for your cooperation." So again, he won't spill who's gonna start in goal. But I really pray that one of the goalkeepers that plays in that game has a surname starting with R, because this guy could play any goalkeeper now. We know he can play anyone in goal. It could be Kai Havertz at the moment, right? Mikel Arteta on his first game as manager being against Bournemouth, it says obviously there've been a lot of changes till now. It's been a while now, and it's been 3.5 years, so almost 4 years since that moment. A really special one. A lot of things have changed. Many of them are positive, and I'm loving the journey. So for sure, it's a quite quite interesting journey as well. On Andoni Iraola, the new manager at Bournemouth, it says we know each other very, very well. We played together. We had a fantastic times together. We played in Antiguoco as well. It's a team in San Sebastian that produced a lot of players over the years. They do fantastic work, and we are privileged to be raised there, to be educated there, and that's the beauty of football. That 30, 40 years later, we are together in the Premier League, both as managers, and I'm really, really happy for him as a manager. One thing you've got to know about Andoni Iraola is he's more like a modern manager for the lower tier teams, right? So what Bournemouth did, it could be kind of ingenious in the end, it could be kind of stupid in the end, but we will get to know the results when the season comes to the end. What they did is they got rid of a pragmatic manager, and the pragmatic manager, I talk about Gary O'Neill. So they've got rid of a pragmatic manager. They've got rid of a safety management manager, a manager who keeps you in the Premier League, but he keeps you under a lot of pressure. You're always thinking about how do we get the result? Eventually the results come, but you don't see where the results are gonna come from. And they've hired a manager that literally plays good football, and you can see where the goals will come from. You can see where the points are gonna come from, and you can clearly see the plan. And that's Andoni Iraola. So I think Bournemouth should be very happy to have him. If he can start winning games, if he can start picking up points, and if he can start being a little bit entertainingly pragmatic. I don't know whether that really makes a lot of sense, right? But good manager for me. Really, really good manager they have there. On why many coaches come from the basic region, because says, well, first is the passion about the game, about football as well. I think the education that we get and the level of coaches there is really, really good. Everybody takes care of the academy. You have to see Real Sociedad, Atletico Bilbao, Eibar. All those teams do fantastic work to raise talent, and it's not a coincidence that a lot of players have come through that system and that region as well. Okay, Mikel on how he compares his team today to the one that won 3-0 at the Vitality Stadium last season. I say it's very confident, very difficult to compare. We want to play like we did that day, even better, and still win the game. We have some changes, and the team is in a different moment at the moment. The objective is going to be the same, to be better than Bournemouth and beat them. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Of course, that should be the bare minimum, shouldn't it? On if there is if there were two world-class goalkeepers fighting for the number one spot during his playing career, it says, yes, since I was 13, one in Antiguoco and the other in Barcelona, my two goalkeepers in the team were Victor Valdez and Pepe Reina. Okay. I mean, let's just go to the second, because I've never rated, as a Barca fan, I've never rated Valdez as a top goalkeeper. Nevertheless, World class. But it is what it is. On if it inspires him in the way he manages the current situation, he says, I don't know, but I was so safe. I looked back and I had Pepe Reina and Victor Valdez, and I was like, we are gonna have a big chance to win the game. Okay, no problems. I mean, the goalkeeping situation is one that will cause a lot of questions on Mikel Arteta's, on Mikel Arteta until he can actually figure it out at the end. On his biggest challenge in terms of improving the team this season, Mikel says, we are playing better every day. We are playing better and better and suffocating the opponent more, creating more chances. That is true. That's not true. Conceding 0. That's right. And playing as far as possible from our goal. And that is actually a positive. Well, I like the way we are playing this campaign. I like the strategy. I just don't think we are clicking yet, right? But it's right. I think we're playing far away from our goal. We are suffocating opponents. That is also true, but we are not creating as many chances as he's trying to convince us in this press conference. Like, we're just not. Mikel Arteta on the difficult situation on the most difficult situation, it says it's all linked and the opponent has a big say on that, you face different behaviors from opponents, different concepts. Games open up when you score early and when you don't. When you concede, when you have errors, a lot of things affect it, but we have to continue winning games, right? Mikel Arteta on being unbeaten in line matches in all competitions this season. It says for sure we have to continue to do that, and that's the mindset that we want to bring to every single game within any context. We have had different contexts throughout the season already, and that's going to keep changing. As you can now see, as you can see now, with the amount of situations that we have in the team, with the uncertainty of players, it's going to be more. Playing every 3 days, having to win, having to compete in 3 different competitions in 7 days, and that's the challenge. We are up for rates, and that is actually for sure. We are up for the challenge, okay? Last few comments, Mikel Arteta on how to instill confidence in the team. He says, well, it's a huge thing, and it's an individual one. It's a collective one as well. And then it's one that is external as well, and the confidence can obviously transmit from each other. Playing well and winning matches is always the best thing to do. On putting aside friendship with the Bournemouth manager, he says, I think it's very easy. You are in winning mode, compete, get the best out of your team, and get into battle. Before and after is a different story, especially especially after, but during, there is nothing there. On if you'll see him after the game, he says, for sure, yes, I will see him. And Mikel Arteta on remarks on Kai Havertz, he says on Kai and how to get the best out of him, says we're trying to help him as much as possible. Be next to him, give him the tools, give him the confidence, and give him the minutes to exploit his talent. There's so many parts of his game that he's doing exceptionally well, and we know the one that needs to keep improving. But as always, with any player, it's about giving him support, especially when you see a player that does what he does every single day, and the way he tries, the way he applies himself. You give him the support, more tools, and if you don't perform, it's because if they don't perform, it's actually because of us. Okay, that's Mikel Arteta on Kai Havertz, on injuries, and the game generally. I'm amazed with the way he's so confident on Kai. And I think there are not so many managers that you can give a lot of credit for in believing in players. Like, I think Jadon Sancho at Man United is in a very similar situation with Kai Havertz at Arsenal. But the difference is how the managers are actually treating these two souls. I mean, of course, you've also got to believe that Anthony is in the same situation. But I just love the way Mikel believes in players. He believed in Xhaka. He believed in Fabio Vieira. And now it's Kai Havertz. I mean, you've got to give him credit for that. You've really, really got to give him credit for that. Don't miss the Arsenal Total Access show coming your way 10 p.m. today live. We'll be talking about the injury crisis at Arsenal, Ivan Toney, and the Bournemouth game. It will be live, right? So make sure you're tuned in for that. For now, I'll say goodbye, and I'll speak to you right in the next one.